Good morning to everyone as you're coming on. So yeah, I was thinking today about this topic, and I said to myself, some parents are not gonna like me after I finish on today. Some of y'all are not gonna like me today, but that is okay because I am concerned about our children's mental health. So good morning, Mom. I'm concerned about our baby's mental health as it concerns these violent video games. So give you all a couple to come on here and we'll get started. I hope every mother that is joining me on live today enjoyed your Mother's Day. I hope that any mothers who had a hard time yesterday because their children are no longer with you, or parents or people who had mothers that are no longer with us, I hope yesterday you found some joy in memories of your mother on yesterday. So I'm glad you're with me this morning. All right, let's get started. So one of the things that we know about video games is that they are a huge source of entertainment for our children and even adults. But a lot of kids I know, a lot of children that I know, they engage in the playing of video games. Many of them are violent, and for some reason or another, we have a tendency to be drawn to violence in some way, especially with these video games. A lot of the games, I'll name a few that I know of that have a history or they're known for being violent. Fortnite, Call of Duty, all of these are video games. Two of those are the main ones that I want to talk about today that are violent in nature. Shooting, there's killing of people on these video games, and it's just really graphic. A lot of the video games nowadays are really graphic. And so I'm concerned that our children, even though they may have an understanding that it is a game, that they are being exposed to violence in that way. So we sometimes will try to keep them from that are too graphic or watching movies that are too violent, but we have in the same token our children who are being exposed to violence, extreme violence in these video games. So I'm concerned that that could have a huge impact on their mental health. So I'm going to be sharing from two articles today. And one of them is from the Association of Adolescent Pediatrics, Association for Pediatrics. And then the other article I'm going to be sharing from today is an article from the Cyber Psychology, Behavior, and Social Networking Journal. So I'm going to be sharing from those two articles on today if you want to go back and the articles after we're done today. So, pathological gaming or video game addiction. Sometimes we don't want to call things what they are, but if your child or you or somebody that you know is spending hours and hours and hours on video games daily, it could be possible that they have a video game addiction. Wow, that's pretty powerful to look at video games as something that we can become addicted to. But it's called pathological gaming. And the study highlighted in the first article I'm sharing from today looked at more than 3,000 children in elementary and secondary school. Now this particular study was done in Singapore, but it tested various the pathological looked at in several other countries, similar to several other countries. I'm not sure if the United States was one of them, but we'll share one that was done in the United States in the next article. This was over 3,000 children in elementary and secondary school in Singapore. They found that children and teens who played more video games and had lower social competence and greater impulsiveness were at a higher risk of becoming pathological gamers. Now, we're not even talking about, we haven't even brought in the violence component yet, but looking at just gaming in and of itself, how addictive it can be. It says that the kids who had lower social competence and greater impulsiveness were at a higher risk of becoming pathological gamers. So they also said that gaming being a coping strategy for children who are anxious or depressed, the authors also talked about how gaming can increase some mental health problems. For example, they gave that a child who has really like a baseline level of impulsiveness, that baseline can be increased the more that they engage in this pathological gaming. And I really want to pause here just a second and allow you all to share this video with some more people, because I really believe that this could be really helpful for us, those of us who have young children or no young children, with being considerate of the types of gifts that we give them for even for Christmas or for their birthdays. A lot of children, especially our young boys, they like the video games. They like to play the games, and they like the violent video games. I've heard, you know, that things are very appealing to them. So I'd like for us to consider how much we are even giving access to these games when we say yes to getting them for like gifts for birthdays or for Christmas or for whatever. So let's be considerate of that. Now, let's go to the next article. This article is entitled Daily Violent Video Game Playing and Depression in Pre-Adolescent Youth. So, this study was, in this study there was an investigation done on whether daily violent video games, playing them over a year's period of time was associated with a greater number of depressive symptoms in pre-adolescent youth. So they analyzed data from 5,147 fifth graders and their primary caregivers. So they participated in this community-based longitudinal study. So it was a long period of time that was conducted in 3 United States cities. So one of the things that they found was that playing high violence video games for more than 2 hours per day is significantly associated with having a higher number of depressive symptoms. Playing high violence video games for more than 2 hours per day is significantly associated with having a higher number of depressive symptoms. Now, these children are 5th grade. Now we have to be concerned about their depressive symptoms being increased because they have been exposed to these violent video games. And they're playing, when kids get home from school and they maybe don't have homework or they complete their homework, the next thing they do after they maybe grab a snack is go jump right on these video games, especially for those children whose parents work and they may not be home from work just yet. By the time the child gets home, the parent has less input on whether that child has access to those video games or not. So just imagine how many of these, think about kids around 5th grade age that you know. How many of them are boys, young boys? I'm not saying that only young boys are impacted by this. Some of our young ladies or young girls like to play video games as well. I'm not sure how many of them prefer the violent video games, but this study kind of focused on boys. So they found an association across all ethnic and racial subgroups. All ethical and racial subgroups, and among boys. It was observed that after they controlled for aggression and violence related variables, that the violent video games, playing them for a substantial amount of time each day over an extended period of time, is significantly associated with depression in pre-adolescent youth. So we have to be mindful of what we allow our children to have exposed. Yes, video games are a huge source of entertainment for them. Yes, video games allow them to maybe have a healthy coping mechanism after a hard day at school. Maybe they've been struggling with their grades. Maybe they've been dealing with a bully. Maybe there are some things that they have been struggling with, but and they just find that video games are a release for them.